And we're back, baby. It's the Rugby Rant. I'm the big guy, Scott Ferrari, got Rob the Hammerschmidt.
Mahalo.
And we also have Matt Courtright. You know, I think he's almost become a permanent member of the cast at this point. He might, you know, he's tracking to be most appearances by a single guest, Rob.
Yeah, he's doing a damn fine job. And like, look at him. I mean, the guy's got Hollywood shades on. He's outside like he owns San Diego. He's the mayor. We're probably gonna have a parade going by. He's got dogs following around like a Pied Piper. I see the little dog there with cruising around. He's found a permanent place.
You know, for two guys who have been doing this for 5 years now, and Matt, you know, is just starting the seawall last year. He has way better digs than we do, bro. What are we doing wrong?
Yeah, how about it? He's
Maddie
under the table from Seattle, I think.
Seriously, Maddie, thanks for coming on again, bro.
Thanks for having us. It's Scott and my first time to do this together, which I'm excited. You know,
usually we call Maddie
we
in.
Probably should have. Yeah, right. When you're not able to make it. Yeah, love it.
But before we get started, I want to give a special shout out to somebody in the Hammerschmidt clan. Jackson, our buddy Jackson, sent me this nice atomic pork chop hat. He is currently working for the Kane County Cougars, and their alternate identity is the atomic pork chops. And Rob and Jackson and Preston all know of my love of the weird minor league baseball alter egos, and he was kind enough to send me this hat for my birthday and a nice Rugby Rant mug. So Jackson Hammerschmidt, thank you very much, bro. I know you're not on Facebook because you're too young for that shit, but you know I tried to send out a message, so I'm going to do it through the show and through your pops. But Jackson, thank you so much, and check out the Kane County Atomic Pork Chops if you're in Illinois, baby.
What part of Illinois are they in?
They're in the western suburbs.
Okay.
So they're just west of where I live, and I live directly about 26 miles due west of the city of Chicago. So they're just a little bit further west than that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's by the Fox. They're not far from the Fox River, which is.
Dude, and it's an awesome hat, and it's an awesome alter ego, and it's funny because you get a lot of these teams with alter egos, and then you get the Mets AAA team is the Binghamton Rumble Ponies. That's their name. That's not their alter ego. They don't have one. They're just the Rumble Ponies, and they have a friggin' big horse head with the Fighting Irish dukes up. It's a great mascot.
Did your son Chef cry at that game too?
No. Well, you know what? He cried so we went for Father's Day. My wife got us tickets to see the Mets play the Padres, and this was in the Grimace era. They were
the best video ever.
Yeah, they were 7-0 after Grimace from McDonald's throughout the first pitch. Lead off, Mets get out of the first inning. Lead off home run from Lindor, and then the next two guys get on base. And Polar Bear Pete Alonso hits a 3-run homer, and the entire time my baby is just screaming his head off because he can't take the yelling.
No, it's because he's a Yankees fan.
He might be.
I try to.
Yeah. I turned that camera, and he's just like, The Mets hit 5 home runs, and they struck out a couple guys in key spots to come back. And actually, they were up by 7 runs. San Diego came all the way back, and then the Mets won it in the bottom of the ninth. So it was a really exciting game, especially on Father's Day. And my son it was funny. The rest of the game, he was fine. They hit those home runs, and he was dying. But it's a great video. Check it out on our social media. Anyway, I think it's time to really get the show started, and we're going to hit around the pitch. And Matt, you're up. I think you have some local insight for around the pitch, right?
Yeah, local West Coast, however you want to see it. So Aaron Lee, which is the president of Rugby Washington Youth, reached out to me a little while ago, a couple weeks actually, and said, hey, we need to grab some gears. We need more quality, less quantity of people who follow through. And he's like, I know you'll do it. So he asked me to help, and we decided my role would be with schools in Washington and trying to get rugby into them. Just keep on trying to get rugby up that totem pole. And so I'm meeting with Ryan Mattias in about 2 weeks, right after the All Blacks Fiji game down here in San Diego. And we're going to break some bread, if you will, and to go over his curriculum that he's created from the MLR perspective, because he's doing it full time, it sounds like. And I'm really excited to do it. I got got some irons in the fire with the CEO and owners of Sea Wolves, and to get some help, because the off season there'll be some gentlemen around that will be able to help me, some players to go to, assemblies or PE classes, and also some high school football going on in August and September. So I'd like to get out there and help them expose rugby and the tactics that go with it that makes it safer, tackling, as we all know, as well as, try and recruit some guys to have some conditioning after football season, and then they'll get sucked into rugby.
I have an idea now.
Okay.
As a person who played high school football, you always find something to do in the spring season. And maybe what you should be getting into is a sevens rugby curriculum within the school. So you get all the football players if they're not playing baseball. Because let's be honest, most football players don't play baseball. The conditioning's aren't the same. The mechanics aren't the same, especially when you get into a high school level. If you're looking to go either D3, D2, or D1 in college, it's so a lot of guys play lacrosse, a lot of guys do their own conditioning and don't play a sport. Well, maybe this is a time to try and create a curriculum of a sevens, high school boys sevens in Washington State, Matty.
Yeah, we do that currently. Right now is actually the season we're doing it. That's a very common thing for the spring into the summer. Normally we do 15s. We do 15s in the spring. Summertime we do sevens. We do tournaments. We typically do about 4 of them for the youth. We are talking about creating sevens within the clubs currently for U14 and below. That's also going to be part of my tactics to come in. There's another gentleman that wants to tackle this. We were going to do it before this season that just happened in 24, but of course, all this stuff happened to me. I'll try to keep it G-rated with my mouth, and because I have no nice words to say about what happened to me. I'm fighting it back though. But yeah, so we were going to jump on it this season, but we didn't. That's a really good idea. It's very successful. The most success it seems to be having in the areas that I'm aware of is Cleveland. Cleveland seems to be killing it on these sevens. Yeah. And they're, what's something that rugby clubs in our state aren't doing that they can learn from soccer and American football clubs is that, it's a club. And then they have their teams within the club. So if people don't come from other clubs to play that weekend, they can at least play other teams within their clubs. Exactly. And just keep on getting touches on the ball, because at the end of the day, that's what we need.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. Yeah, 100%. Starting with younger ages before they get to high school is key. You're right. You want to get your mitts into them before other sports do, so that it is, at the very least, their secondary sport rather than somewhere further down that list.
Yeah, I think where my passion lies is just to expose it to them, so they can at least go, oh, I remember this one time in, say, elementary school where these guys showed up, these huge human beings with an awkward looking ball that I'd never seen before, but now I do, and just run with it from there. That's what the goal is. Like you guys say, one fan at a time.
One fan at a time.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. That's how you do it. Hammer, what do you got for around the pitch?
Oh, well, I last week tried to really do a little bit of service to the Mid-Atlantic Academy Championships. And they took place just this last weekend on the 28th and 29th. There was basically a U18, U16 boys. There was a girls division, and that was, I think, a U18 girls. So there was like 4 divisions in there, 3 divisions in there, and they all crowned champions. It was really cool. What I think the greatest thing about this was all these academies that were in attendance were linked in some way to an MLR team. So you had those that were more overt, like San Diego sent a team, and the San Diego Legion, seniors did a really nice job. Coach Lee did a really nice job really trying to, get a groundswell of monetary support for him. But you had Young Glory, you had San Diego, NCYRU, New England in one division. You had Houston, the Florida Jags in another division, Ohio Aviators, and the Thunderbirds, which are associated with the Chicago Hounds. So champions. You had U18 final, which was posted on TRN. You can go back and see that was the Legion versus Sabercats Academy, and the champions were San Diego Legion. The U16s featured the Thunderbirds versus the Florida Jags, and congratulations to the Thunderbirds. And the Young Glory versus the Aviators was the girls' final. So it was great to see all these teams play in Emmitsburg, Maryland, which is the home of Mount St. Mary's. What a great tradition to get started and keep going as we build academies. It would be great to see this turn into, down the road, an MLR Academy Championship that's nationwide. So awesome stuff. Congratulations to all those that participated, to all those teams. It was wonderful to see them get their due.
That's awesome. That's one of the replays I really enjoyed watching, was that U18 championship. I do feel like they could have maybe either put it all out on TRN at some point, or put maybe the pool matches out on YouTube for free, and maybe have the teams.
They actually were.
They were
YouTube. They were on YouTube. Yeah. You know what? We'll send the link and we'll post it.
Because I missed that whole thing, so I apologize for misspeaking. But yeah, and also shout out to our buddy Marcus Holt, part of the cohort there, because I'm pretty sure his car just got towed behind Maddie. There was a tow truck there, and we can only.
He didn't park it here on Friday. It's so weird.
we can only hope it was our buddy Marcus. But all joking aside, now it's good that I like that we actually have two back-to-back ATPs that are about youth rugby, you know what I mean? And doing what we need to get done as far as even putting it out there on YouTube, on TRN, getting that exposure for people, especially people I think are coming around to the MLR and not realizing the depth at which we can actually show rugby here in the States, whether it's collegiate rugby or youth rugby. So really, again, really good tournament. Hopefully they can make this a highlight of, of the year next year. Maybe, they do the championship, is a double header at a big FS2, weekly, maybe it's when the Seawolves are playing San Diego or the Hounds are playing NOLA or something like that, and have that.
And by the way, good to see the Aviators, who aren't tied to a MLR team, as well as NCYRU, New York City, I think, Youth Rugby Union. So we're New Youth Rugby Union. So it's great to see that. Hopefully we see something more come out of that in the future.
Absolutely. So my around the pitch topic is going to be the fact that Ohio sucks in everything it does. No, I'm joking. Shout out to my buddy Butch. I know he was an Ohio Aviator. I can forgive him for going out there because that was the most Eastern pro rugby team we had at the time. I know he would have been in New York if pro rugby was in New York, but it wasn't at the time. So I can forgive and forget on that one. But truly, my around the pitch this week is talking about the fact that they finalized the men's and women's sevens teams going to the Olympics. I'm so excited. It's the men's team's captained by Kayvon Williams, and the women's team is actually captained by Nia Tapper and Lauren Doyle. I'm really excited about both these teams. I know the men haven't really been thriving as much this season, but I do think they can go do some damage. I do think teams are underestimating what they can do and underestimating the job that this team is going to do. And the women's team, right now I think they're top 4 in HSBC sevens. They won't be underestimated, and not that that's a problem, but it's going to make it a little bit harder for them. The last Olympic cycle, unfortunately, I think they left a lot out there and they could have done more. Now, granted, it was during COVID and all that craziness. Well, USA Olympic team has already started to kind of thwart some of the things that I feel that the host nation is doing in Paris, in France, because the Olympic Committee is providing housing for all athletes but does not provide air conditioning as part of their green initiative. GE last month sent over ACs for every room that an American Olympic athlete is staying in, because it is hot over there right now. And imagine trying to, do what you're doing and not being able to enjoy a nice air conditioned room. We're America, baby. We're the logistics, nightmare. They said we were gonna make 50,000 planes in World War II. We made 100,000, and there's a reason for that. So super excited. I'm a big Olympics guy. I will be watching all the field events. Obviously, I'll be watching sevens. I watch all the swimming events. My brother's a swimmer. And shout out to my brother's swimming coach, Carly Fierro. She has two swimmers on the women's team who are participating in multiple singles and medley, relay events. She's coached many medalists, including Christina Teuscher from my hometown, who's a gold medalist swimmer, and taught my brother and coached my brother. So you have no idea. Like the 2 weeks of the Olympics are like a family thing at the Ferrara household. Between me, my mother, my wife, my dad, my brother, we're fucking texting, we're watching, and because it's in Paris, it's not like too big of a friggin' time difference. So make sure you're at least watching the goddamn sevens. You have no excuse.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Scott, I want to piggyback on that simply because just today, the USAR released a promo video on behalf of the USA Men's Sevens program that was narrated by or featured Mark Cuban. We know Mark has given a lot to USA Rugby, and he's really kept it on the DL. I think that needs to stop. The man has really done a lot for USAR. But it's pretty cool. If you haven't seen it, go check out MLR Fan Zone. We posted it there, or I reposted it there. They do a quick hit on each one of the members of the team, which is pretty cool. I hope they do the same for the women's team. I mean, the women's team deserves its due. I think they've got a lot of great personalities on there. Obviously, Iona Meyer is probably the most well-known, but Lev Kelter is just an absolute rock star and just a player that when you guys watch, fans at home, you pay attention to Lev Kelter. She's amazing. So they just have a great squad. So check that out on the MLR Fan Zone because it's really worth a look. It's something that the USA Rugby did really well.
It was really cool. Yeah, it's a really cool video. Mark Cuban, I believe, Indiana University.
Yep.
Rugby. And Alona Mar did just come out with a Dove antiperspirant and deodorant commercial. And it's funny because
that was well done too, by the way.
Yeah, she's playing 15s, and she's playing the 8-man in 15s, which is funny because really she's like in 15. Sometimes she's a prop, sometimes she's a flanker, sometimes she's an 8-man. Like they kind of push her around the pack there a little bit. But in 7, she's a legit prop. But I think the visual of a 3-on-3 scrum isn't what they were looking for. So they pushed it. Oh, we got to do a 15-on-15 and throw her at 8. And then that way she could just pop her head up and do the commercial. It was nice. It was really cool. I'm glad to see that we're getting that exposure. But I do agree. I think we could do something. We could have somebody come in and talk about friggin' women's rugby that can give us that exposure. Or, Cuban could do another one for the women's side. I wonder if that's going to come out tomorrow. But, I mean, you had a good idea. Jump on the Caitlin Clark train.
Wouldn't that be the ultimate the thumb in the eye, so to speak, for Caitlin Clark? She got snubbed. A lot of people are upset she got snubbed from USA basketball teams. So bring Caitlin Clark in to do the promo for the USA Rugby women's program, right? That would be awesome.
Marketing genius, Rob the Hammersmith. So we're actually going to get into our rant. So we're going to be ranting about the playoffs, baby. We're having a 2-week hiatus. Yeah. Okay, Jim Moore. We're having a 2-week hiatus of MLR going into the playoffs because of the international window. Rob, luckily enough, is going to be at the USA-Romania match. He's going to be up in the booth there. He's also, if you saw his previous video this week, he's going to be going to the Romanian practice and doing a couple interviews. Hitting it with our buddy Remescu, and then going to the Eagles captain's run and checking them out. The big guy is going to be going down to DC. Unfortunately, because they're practicing down in DC, and I live in New York, it's like a fucking 7-hour trip. So I won't be making it down there to interview people for practice, but I will be down there for the match, and I'll be either in the booth or at my seat. One or the other, I haven't decided. It depends on what gets me the better access. But I will be there with my Section 6 hard hats, Butcher's Block poster that I put up for Rooney for the past 4 years, shouting out our buddy doing the Butcher Fawcett. But yeah, we're going to be talking about playoffs, and we got a bunch of different. Trust me, we have a bunch of different opinions on this one. Before we get into it, we're going to hear a word from our sponsors.
When we pick up the ball, we also pick up a legacy. A legacy that stretches beyond your current team. A legacy built on the backs of those who came before you with hard work. And for those who will come after you, we promise it won't be easy. But we'll be there, supporting you on and off the field.
Yeah, we're back. And before Scott gets into leading us into the rant, we hear from Matt just about the East and the West and what we expect from the playoffs. I want to just throw a quick shout out to our sponsors, Rugby Now, who Power Shop MLR. A couple of things that are going on that are really exciting. One of them is obviously the City Edition jerseys. All of them are out. So, get your City Edition jersey while you can. Just saw the Hounds one recently. Looks great. NOLA one's really interesting, a true piece of art, but there's a lot of great City Edition kits that are out there. The other thing is they have a new promotion. This is something they've been working on, guys. 15 season will be on us before we know it. You got to get your kit orders in now so they're ready and cooking for the fall 15 season. And Rugby Now has the ability to meet your needs. They are working with Adidas. It's something they've been working on for almost a year, and it's a custom Adidas kit order. You can go on their website. It was just there. You can start to do your mock-up. It's free to do a mock-up. Check it out. Mock up your team's kit. See what you can come up with. Be creative. Be fun, and let Rugby Now do the work for you. Because I'm telling you what, they are committed to excellence, not just in delivering a great product, but also making sure that it gets there in time for your season. So do it now. Check out Rugby Now.
Awesome.
Man, you got my interest on that.
They get us kitted out for MLR season, and they get us kitted out for our club season. And I think, Matt, you should be talking to them about this youth initiative and seeing what you're doing for the schools.
I love that idea. Why not, right?
Yeah, listen, exactly. It gets, it's. I still have T-shirts from like when I was in college of things, and I sadly my dog ate my hat, my UMass Dartmouth hat that I bought the first day of freshman year of college, which was all the way back in September of 2005. So that hat was almost 19 years old, all the way back, almost 20 years old. And then my poor dog ate it one day. I was heartbroken. But it's those things like that you remember. And even if the person doesn't continue to play rugby, if the kid doesn't continue to play, maybe he'll cherish the shirt and just watch and become a fan.
Yep.
So, all right. So the first thing we're going to kind of roll into before we kind of get to our predictions is what we think about the four teams that have each made it from each conference. So real quick, I'm going to put up the graphic and just kind of talk through it. Obviously, we had Houston at top of the table in the Western Conference, 14-2-0, 67 points. Then we had those stupid from Rain City, 11-5 with 57 points. We had San Diego, 11-5 with 55 points, which I'm really that 2-3 combination right there. I'm going to say I like to see that, and I like the closest in points. It came down to bonus points. Dallas coming in, rounding off the rest of the Western Conference at 6-10 with 43 points. Utah and LA not making it. Utah doing Utah things. That's just the way it is. Checking out the Eastern Conference, you had New England at the top of the Eastern Conference, 11-5, 55 points. NOLA coming in second in the Eastern Conference, 10-6 with 50 points. Chicago coming in at 8-7-1 with 45 points. DC rounding out with a 7-7-2 record with 42 points. Miami and Anthem obviously not making it. So, guys, let's start with the Western Conference first and how things shook out. What do you guys, what are your opinions on how the four settled there?
Go ahead, Rob.
So the only one that surprised me was Utah. I really thought that Utah would be in there. They just had such an explosive offense at times. I would have thought that they would have been more in the hunt. Also surprised me that Steve Brett just came out today. As of our recording, Steve Brett was, whether it's let go, he stepped down, but he parted ways with LA. So he got him out there, got him planted, got him going through first season, and he will no longer be their head coach. They'll be looking along with the Hounds, because we know that Rob Weber is going to the series next year. The Hounds will be looking for a new head coach. So out of the 12 teams, we're going to be looking at 2 new head coaches. But, the top 3 don't surprise me. They've been in the hunt the last couple of years. We knew Houston was going to be good. They're looking for a new director of rugby. So, some real interesting stuff. But, yeah, that's the only one that surprised me was Utah. I would have thought they would have snuck in there.
I'll say I kind of wish Houston would have decided this last year, because kind of would have been a great place for Harris to kind of move over there. Nobody has to move out of Austin. Kids stay in school. I don't know. I think of the hardship that they're going through right now, and hurts my heart.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, after watching Dallas play, especially early in the season where they had some really tight losses against top tier teams. I mean, I saw them actually maybe even trying for that 3rd slot at some point. I thought San Diego may slide down a little bit. They started to pick up some nicks there at the end of the season, but they also had guys coming at the end of the season that were nicked up. So San Diego coming in strong to really push Seattle on that 2nd place, even though, Seattle had a strong team. I don't know. I felt like for some reason Dallas, in my mind, when they're gelling together, is more consistent than San Diego. I think San Diego makes more big plays, but when push comes to shove and San Diego gets punched in the mouth, sometimes you get stunned for a little bit too long. And it takes them a little while to get in gear if they get punched in the mouth.
Well, that happened against Chicago.
Yeah, exactly.
In week 17.
Utah, this is the 5th season they've done like the same thing where, again, the inconsistency kills Utah, and I don't know where that lies, because the roster seems to be great. You have a first-year coach, but the roster seems to be built great.
I just think they had a lot of injuries
locker room.
At the end of the season.
Yeah, but even at the beginning, they were up and down. They always come out strong in the first 3 or 4 weeks, which is typically unusual for most teams, right? Most teams, because they're really not getting in those preseason matches, and their preseason's only a month. They're not really gelling. You know what I mean? Like, so the first 4 weeks, we always talk about it, Rob, right? It's like, and then all of a sudden by week 5, we're kind of settled. They do well, and then they kind of slope down.
Yeah. I guess, you look around the league, what teams have done well consistently over the course of the season. It's generally teams that have settled 9s and 10s, right? That 9-10 pairing is critical. And that's not a shocker for anybody who follows a game of rugby. When you have a good 9 and 10 that work well together, a 10 that can really control the game, control where the game is played, it's not easy to win rugby games, but you're a lot more successful winning rugby games. Quite frankly, they've had a good 9-10 combination. Obviously, their 10 Hodgson has been really, really. I think he's a quality 10. I just think that they've struggled in other areas, the continuity has just let them down, and that's what's surprising to me.
You talk about a strong 9-10 combination. You go to LA, who missed the playoffs. Connor McManus gets injured. He tears his ACL I think 6 weeks ago, and it just kind of starts a little bit of a skid for them as far as their continuity. Connor McManus is one of those guys that was on Scott Lawrence's list to be looked at for these internationals. I truly think if he was healthy, he would have been selected, and depending on how the matches went, he definitely would have gotten time. If we laid on a big one against, let's say, Romania, I think you put Connor McManus in there early to get him some time. Scotland a little bit. I think it's going to be more of a dogfight. So maybe he gets the last 10 minutes depending on what's going on. But I think that really showed in LA and how their offense kind of. I wouldn't say their offense slid as much as they just kind of lost an edge because of a consistent 9 and Connor McManus.
Well, Hollinshead is a hell of a player. I mean, I think he really kept him in those games. In a lot of those games when he was available, he just struggled with injuries too, and I think that was some of the difficulty that they had.
Yeah, 2 guys.
Hey, let's talk about some of the teams that are actually playing instead of dusting up on Utah, because they're not in it. Okay, just putting it out there. I'm being so quiet over here. Like, these guys are totally talking about nobody that's contending.
Let's talk about who's contending.
No, we want to hear about Dallas. Dallas is coming up, bro. Like, let's be real. Like, they're clicking. They're clicking. Like, when they're jiving, they're jiving. And they put us on our heels in Dallas. They brought it. they just keep on shocking people. Let's talk about that. I mean, they're in fourth place and they're quite a ways down. I mean, what are they, 7 points underneath?
Yeah.
Or no,
Yeah.
14 points
14.
underneath. San
Yeah,
Diego.
14. Yeah, 43.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, when they shook us, it was awesome to watch all those players just like they were in the third half, just they were so proud of themselves, hugs everywhere. It was great to watch.
But I think that's the thing with Dallas is early on, those games they lost tight was because they didn't quite know how to finish. And now they're coming on so strong at the end of the season. They realize what they need to do to finish out those tight games. And I think that's what makes them. We'll talk about predictions soon.
They're finding ways to win.
They're finding their little counter punches to put you on your back foot, And I think Houston, hopefully they're not coming in there underestimating them because I think that'll be their most dangerous opponent, to be quite honest.
I hope they do. I think Houston's a better team, but we're all playing with injuries, and Houston's second guessing themselves, which they don't need to. They play their own game. They slow down. They smash rugby in my mind, but they're him and Han, like they're second guessing themselves, and it's like, no way. You guys have been showing dominance towards the end and finding ways to win, which winners finds ways to win,
Yeah, and let me tell you just something about Dallas. Like I've watched a few of their games this season, and one of the guys that always turns up for me is Geronimo Gomez-Vara. I think he's the star of that team. They put him in at 6. They could put him at 8. They put him in second row, and the guy just he had one of the best games this season, that I've ever seen in the MLR from a back row player. Just an awesome player. Wouldn't be surprised if he's not in Dallas next year. That's how good he's playing. That'll get picked up. I just think sometimes they try to do too much with the ball. Right. That's one thing that Houston does well. Right? When they get on a run, they don't try to make that one extra pass to link up. They don't try to make that, one extra meter to get that carry. They're just consistent. Right. And that's the one thing that Dallas has left on the table is consistency throughout the early parts of the season. And maybe now they're just hitting their stride. They're getting their consistency they need.
It's almost like they don't trust themselves.
Yeah.
Say, okay, we can start a new phase and run the next play or run the pick and go or like whatever they've decided on their game plan. It's almost like, I have to get this out because if I don't get this out, we're not going to have another chance.
Right. It's just
be patient, run your game plan. You don't need to make that extra pass. And you hit the nail on the head by saying that.
Yeah.
The two teams I'm going to talk about in the Eastern Conference in a couple minutes. So Matt, being Mr. Seawolf yourself, there's two guys up there. There's Matt. Well, there's three guys. There's Matt, there's Rucky, and then there's Broccoli Kid. But Matty, being the guy in the know, what does Seattle need to do to not only beat San Diego, but then move on and beat their next opponent in the semis?
I think they need to play their game. I think that's when Seattle's gotten caught off guard and lost their asses, is because they're not playing their game. The guys gel well together. But then, I don't know, something happens in the fourth quarter, if you will, where they've fallen apart. I watch them fall apart in Houston. I blame the weather. And then I watch them fall apart in San Diego. Never mind the 3 forward passes that nobody called, but whatever. For tries. But, it was a game that really didn't matter anyway. So, here we are going to playoffs. Talk about it, But if they just play their game and control themselves and not play defense so quickly, much like you just described, both of you just described Dallas and the whole, instead of going for that extra pass or that flick or that last minute throw it up and hope your guy gets it, just slow down the tempo, get your rut going, get the next phase up and running, and just concentrate on one phase at a time. Stop trying to make things happen that aren't there yet. Because that's what Houston is doing, in my personal opinion. They're slowing down the tempo. They're playing smash mouth because it works. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And they're working for left to right, right to left, constantly, consistently. And that's why I think they're kicking ass. They're winning, right?
That defensive line starts to shorten up, and then that's when
they find
that next pass, 1 is more accurate, and 2, you have more space. So you're not making some wild extra pass. You're making a smart extra pass to a guy who's not even going to get into contact.
So,
Yeah.
and we talked about 9 and 10s. Let's talk about the 9 and 10 for Seattle. I mean, you've got JP Smith,
Yeah.
who is probably one of the most consistent 9s in the league over the course of the last 7 seasons. Just an amazing player in his own right.
Yeah.
You know, he's adept with a boot. He can put a box in. He knows, you know, how to work the field, and he's always a threat to find that A gap burst and make some meters or score a try. And then, of course, you have Mac Mason, who's the top point scorer in the league right now. So, you know, clearly he can put the screws jam. Maybe that's what they need to do a little bit more, right? Is control the tempo and pace and wait for teams to make mistakes and commit penalties inside that 45 meters, you know, in that attacking 45 meters, and then just start that board clicking over, you know.
Yeah.
And here's the question I have for you, Matt. Injuries. So we know that there's some injuries. You got your Reichard Hadding's obviously out. You've got let's see, there's a couple other injuries in there. Is Peter Malcolm out? I don't know about that one. You know, how much are these injuries in these key spots going to impact the Seawolves over the in 2 weeks' time?
It's huge. Pete Malcolm is completely retired from rugby. He is going to start with Ohio State as coaching. He got concussed. He got concussed early this season, and no, you know, he didn't. We didn't. You know, nobody told anybody. You know, it was all inside information. Can't leak that out. Let him come with it. I'm sure it was a hard decision for him to make because he's a legend. But yeah, he's out of it. Which really, like, it put it a lot on DeQuan, right? So your boy Perry, and
he needs more time to mature. I'm not knocking his game.
No, he's a great player.
He doesn't have the throws of an experienced hooker, and it really shows under moments of pressure during the course of a game. I've seen it with a lot of young hookers, American hookers, right? They just don't have the amount of experience and quality touches under high pressure situations. And so when those times and points in the matches come, you know, you're down by 5, you're down by 7, you need a try, you got your kick into the corner you're looking for, and you need to make that throw, you know, to that line out so you can get the rolling maul that we know is so dangerous across the league, and they miss the mark. And that's the killer. That's the coaching killer right there.
Yep. I mean, but you know, he's getting that now, and I do think in the scrum, he's very good in the scrum, and he's very good tackling and very good with the ball in hand.
Yes.
You know,
Completely
there's a reason.
agree.
You know, he's a small little spark plug. You know, and I think he kind of gets lost sometimes when he's running with the ball, and guys don't realize that he has like a 6th gear that he can pick up. Don't get me wrong, he's not fast by any, you know, hooker standard, but he can surprise some guys with some acceleration sometimes. And what that does is that angle of attack that the defender now has changes because they're a little surprised. But real quick, guys, give me your Western Conference. Who's getting to the championship? What's going on? What are you guys feeling?
Houston. I know I'm supposed to be for Seattle, but let's be honest. We've watched Houston beat us twice. I think we can do it if we slow our pace down and keep our heads on, like I said, you know, play our game, try to let Houston control it. But if we play our game, I think it'd be a lot better footy. But of course, I'm biased. But when you take my biasness out of it and go by the stats and what I've observed, I think San Diego will go to Seattle, and they're going to get beat. They're going to get beat. That's all. The fortress where everybody goes to, where dreams go to die. But yeah, so then I think with let's see, who's the other two? It's Houston versus Dallas. I think Houston will take it if they don't underestimate Dallas, you know. But because it's in Houston, it's not in, you know, I think they got the fandom happening there. The Saber Bros are going to definitely bring their best, you know, vibes. And then they're going to go, you know, whoever battles Houston is what I'm thinking is really going to have to like bring it and like play their game. Otherwise, Houston's going to control the tempo and go to the championship.
I hear you. Hammer, what do you got?
So Houston versus Dallas. Can you throw that graphic up there just so people are seeing when these games are going to be played? So that's going to be on the Saturday. It's 6:30. Those are Eastern times, folks. 6:30 on FS2. You got Houston against Dallas. I think that Houston's going to make it 3 games in a row against their Texas neighbors. All keep in mind that both the games this year have been within 2 to 3 points each. So this is going to be a tight affair. It's going to be less than 5. I would put my money on 3, but I still think Houston pulls this out. The other one was, and this is, by the way, a recap. Both these, that's the interesting thing about the West, is both these matches are recaps of Week 18 matches.
Yep.
And the other one at Seattle versus San Diego. And this one was a tough one because I started looking up and down the rosters to see what outliers were out there, like what made the difference between Week 1 and one in which Seattle won by 6, and Week 18 in which San Diego won by 12. And there's really not a huge difference. I mean, the front rows are fairly consistent, with the only difference being DeQuan Perry, in the middle of that Seattle front row. The other guy that I like to see get a run is Devin Short. He's really come on well for you guys. Great to see him back in the game. So I think Seattle's going to win that one. I think the 16th man is going to make a difference for him. It's going to be a tough place to play for San Diego. So I'm picking Seattle in by 2.
Oh, I like that.
Gotcha.
Close.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I think Dallas is going to come in, punch Houston in the mouth a little bit, but I think by the end, by that fourth quarter after that second water break, I think Houston takes it. I think they'll find their game and they'll find their rhythm. And I think they'll beat Dallas, I would say probably by 2 converted tries. Again, they're probably leading by 1 converted try, and they kind of just get one at the end to seal it, in my opinion. But I think the first half is going to be that closer match that Rob was talking about. Seattle versus San Diego. I think Seattle takes it. I think the seawall sharpens you guys, even though, you said the past couple weeks you felt like you've broken down as the match has gone through. But I do think having the seawall there and the 16th man will help you guys beat, a bitter foe in San Diego. But then you're going to come up to that Houston team, and I don't know how well you're going to play in Houston, especially if it's one of those afternoon to night games, right, Rob? Me and Rob talk about those afternoon to night games where the ball then changes in the second half and it's wet and people aren't used to it. And Houston's used to it because they play in that weather, but a lot of teams aren't used to it, and I think that's kind of an advantage. So I think Houston takes it. So guys, Eastern Conference, for me, the Eastern Conference isn't necessarily surprising, but what Rob had said about consistency, really shows for me in the Hounds and DC. Specifically DC, when you look at the fact that they flip-flop 9s a lot this season, based upon, I guess, who they think either was going to meet the game plan better or who they felt was better practicing. They were up and down with who was playing the 9s. And then for some reason, the Hounds just couldn't put together like a solid first half where, they felt dominant, and they have the team, the Hounds, to play dominant. They just haven't. And I think, ownership, felt that there needed to be a change at the top, because obviously they felt whatever was dripping down wasn't making it to the field level for them to be consistent.
So, yeah. And I think it comes down to, and it's Sam in his press release said that he just wasn't able to maximize the potential of this team and the talent of this team. Here's what I think it came down to. I think it was a bigger challenge than perhaps originally thought when assembling this squad. I'm going to tell you that this team, this Hounds team, that you could probably put, when all are healthy, 2 very good sides out in this team. And the problem is, as you wear on a 16-game season, unless you have a vision and are able to relay exactly to your boys when they're going to get their opportunities, how they're going to get their opportunities, it can be very difficult to manage, because guys got to know that you've got to keep them engaged. And it's tough to do when they think that, or feel like if they make a mistake, there's 2 or 3 guys behind them that are knocking at the door to take that spot. And it can be pretty difficult, create a lot of pressure. And ultimately, I think that was kind of the killer. So you really haven't seen a consistent lineup throughout the season, and that's created that inconsistency. Part of it's due to injury. but I think some part of it is due to just having, some quality depth in that lineup. So
they made the playoffs. He did something right.
Well, yeah, and they came on strong in the last 2 games.
Yeah, which is really nice to see those guys still clicking, even though the coach is gone. Luke White, shout out to him because he's keeping it together as a captain.
That was, off topic, but that was a little bit of a shock to me to see that Scott Lawrence put Luke on the non-traveling reserve squad. I thought he was playing well enough to crack the lineup for the Eagles, but that's just my opinion. I'm also not the Eagles coach and haven't been watching with all the great statistics and analytics that Scott gets. So maybe, obviously there's something there that he's seeing that I can't see with the naked eye, but, just throwing it out there. What do you think about New England? Again, another team that's been hit by the injury bug. They haven't been consistent in this last half. But I got to be honest, of all the teams, they're the ones who've recently been there, right? They beat San Diego last year at Snapdragon to win their first title. So do you think that New England is, as much as New England struggled in the last quarter of the season, do you think they turn?
Jesus Christ, Matt.
I know, right?
Dude, are you in San Diego? Yeah, are you in San Diego or are you in the Bronx, dude? Because
he's in Thailand.
It sounds like you'd be right.
It's all the guys that got D-Wees the other day and now they're riding bicycles or motorbikes around,
So I would tell you, New England, we talked about 9s and 10s in the Western Conference. I think this is the case with New England, right? They last year on the backs of John Poland and Jason Patros, they played really, really well all season and were one of the most consistent performers. This year, you notice that when Potty is out, and obviously Poland's out for the season, when Potty's out, it's really tough for them to get going. And he was taken out in that Hounds match, and the Hounds won. As soon as he was taken out, their offense sputtered quite a bit. If it kind of, I think it's going to depend on his health. So for them to get this 2-week break, it really works out pretty well. Now I don't know how many Canadians they have committed, on their roster to the international window. That's always an interesting result. But I think they're vulnerable, because they do have some injuries that are season enders to Poland, to Larson, to Conradi. And they don't really have an answer for Patros if he is not in the lineup.
Man, and Patros is such a game maker.
Yeah. Some New England fan, like midway through the season, was like, Patros is over the hill. He's terrible. I'm like, bro, he torched the Hounds in their first meeting in SeaTac. Just torched the Hounds and came back and torched whoever they had. And then the next week, I'm like, you're out of your damn mind.
That's just somebody who's pissy because they didn't have an answer when he wasn't in the lineup. Right. So as far as Eastern Conference is concerned, if you were asking me, I think New England beats DC handedly, to be quite honest. Again, the inconsistency with DC has been ridiculous. It's been they're almost like a Utah of the Eastern Conference, in my opinion. If Miami and Anthem weren't brand new teams with, trying to figure, as the new teams come in, you notice in the standings, you have new teams that they're trying to figure out game day. The players are trying to figure out their own pregame ritual and a new setup. The coaches are trying to figure out their shit. Administration's trying to figure out their shit. I think that tracks with how LA, Miami, and Anthem finished. But DC kind of tracks the same way, and they have no excuse, in my opinion. You know what I mean? They really have no excuse, in my opinion. They should be playing better than they are. And I don't think that they're going to have an answer for New England. As far as NOLA in Chicago, round 2 of the Hammer Cup, I do think NOLA has been coming – round 3, excuse me. I forgot. Yeah, they played twice. I like how he's right behind
keep moving, please. I'm recording a podcast.
Yeah,
I like how he's idling right behind
he'll
you.
go away and stay away.
And of course,
all of a sudden you see me break away like.
Yeah, and of course they're on 2 strokes, so they're loud as shit. But
Right, you can't make this up. Sorry, everybody.
it's okay. I do think Ed Fidel is going to be the difference in Chicago. I don't think they have anybody that can keep up with his physicality and pace if he's healthy. But you know what? He's never healthy when the playoffs come, and he still fucking produces. Rob, it's insane. The dude's always nicked up.
So I'd tell you it's interesting about. I'm still picking the Jacks, right? I'm still picking the Free Jacks over Old Glory. But notice this year, both their meetings, 1-point matches in each one. So I think this is going to be closer on in reality than what people really think. I think, I'm going to pick the Free Jacks by 3. Put the distance, but guys like Longwell, guys like Corey Daniel have really come through this season. So it'll be interesting to watch them hum along. I'd love to see them get the upset, but I just don't think they will. In the other game, I'm not picking a winner here. It's too close to the heart.
Oh God.
Yeah, I see you.
No, but I'm going to tell you if I think NOLA has the edge, and NOLA has. And by the way,
especially since it's at home.
Yeah, well, that's why, right? There are injuries on both sides, which I won't get into. Okay, there are injuries, and so it's impacting those two teams. But I think that the difference is going to come down to conditions, and it really is. I've talked to Cam Dolan on a number of occasions. Cam Dolan, they love to play in that heat, in that thick heat. They do. They thrive on it. And quite frankly, Chicago will not be used to it if the weather up here continues to be like it is. I mean, today it was like 70 degrees, 72 degrees. It was perfect summer weather, right? But it was 117 real feel in New Orleans today, talking to Dan Fowler.
Oh, 117.
Wow. And on the pitch, can you imagine what the temps are going to be like at that game is being played? Scott, what time is that game being played? It's being played at 4:30, local time. Okay. So it's going to be murder all day, absolute murder all stinking day. So I think that's going to be the difference maker.
I think New England definitely has the edge. I don't know that it's players. I definitely know that, like, with 1 point, keeping those separated in the previous season, I think that they'll have home field advantage. I mean, if you guys have ever been to their stadium, I mean, they bring it as fans. So, like, that's something to get behind as a player for sure. And then I think, man, Chicago and NOLA, it's like, yeah, NOLA all day. I mean, they beat the Seawolves, even though we were winning at half. And they brought it in the second. And they also don't have to deal with the emotions that they're going through right now with the coach and all that jazz and all that drama that we really don't see it. You think so?
Think the Hounds,
I hope so.
I think the Hounds are over it. I think it's in the rear view.
I hope so, for their sake, keep their sanity.
Yeah. And by the way, I got to tell you, there's going to be an upset in 2 weeks' time. There's going to be an upset.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't know where it's going to be, right?
We just don't know where it's going to come. But somebody's going to get upset. And I think if there was an upset right for the picking, it's this NOLA Chicago match.
I mean, it could be because NOLA at the beginning of the season, again, inconsistent, but they kind of turned it on quicker than Chicago did, right?
I mean, NOLA actually didn't play all that well through the early season. They got picked off by NOLA, and then that's when Chicago won that.
Oh,
dude,
your backdrop fell.
Things are just falling in my house.
So so that started their 4-game win streak, and then they kind of went into a 4-game losing streak, whereas NOLA went on, I think, a 7-2 tear at the end of the season. So that's what this was a tough one. It's a tough one.
Okay, so who do you have coming out of the Eastern Conference? Because we all picked Houston out of the West. Who's representing the East?
New England, NOLA. I think New England will take it again.
You think New England takes it, Rob? What do you think?
New England to me is like the Raiders of the East Coast, man. It's like you can't bet against them.
The Raiders suck.
Bro, back in the day, the Raiders were upsetters, bro.
Yeah,
they used to upset all the time. Maybe I'm showing my age.
Yeah, when they were smoking on the sidelines and drinking beer.
So I guess.
How old are you, Scott? How old are you?
I turned 37.
Okay. Happy birthday, buddy.
He's old enough to
Oh,
remember.
fun.
He's old enough to remember
Oh.
those days. But if I had to, I'm going to pick New England just because then it'll go pie in my face and somebody else will get into the final besides them. But I think there's, in my mind, there's two teams that I think have the potential to beat them and could get through to that final. And
Yeah, the East Coast is tight.
Yeah.
It's anybody's game.
Yeah, I'm going New England. Houston is my final, and I would say New England squeaks one out just because they've been there before. Believe it or not, I truly feel that does make a difference in our young league here. So they've been there before. They're looking to double up, and I think they're people are going to underestimate them as a wounded team, and they're going to come out and show some pride and put it back in people's faces. Oh boys.
I think we all agree on something. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I
thought we were going to have a lot more disagreement in this bad boy.
We're gonna, you know what it is? It's definitely one of those things where we're gonna be completely wrong. And you know who wasn't completely wrong? The person who won this week's Super Brew.
Yeah, that would be Leon Smith. He's a San Diego Legion fan. Leon won week 18 and got himself some sweet swag, or at least a little bit of a coupon, $25 towards them. But guys, I just want to tell you, Super Brew ain't over. It ain't over. We got to go all the way to the final. There are points still to be had. I do want to take a moment while I've got everybody here to just go through that top of that leaderboard real quick. You got Nate Dogg, who has won a week. That's Nathan Miller, OG fan. You got Craig Tigg, Matt Palkey, who's a Utah fan. And you got, this is my favorite. She is my favorite. Teresa Zaman, a New England Free Jacks fan who goes by Buttercup, who's rounds out the top three. And then you have, let's see, knocking on the doors, Lachlan Charlie and his roommate, Preston Hammerschmidt. So they got, I don't know, they must be in cahoots or something. But yeah, get in on it. It's a lot of fun. $150 coupon to the winner, 100 to second place, and 50 to third place. So some great stuff happening in Super Brew. Thank you very much to Rugby Now and the Power Shop MLR.
Absolutely. And guys, like we said prior, Rob's going to have some content up for us prior to the Romanian Eagles match.
Yep.
Check out our socials and our Facebook page for that stuff. We got another episode of Let's Get Hot. Episode 2 is coming out. We have an RPK with who's Corey Daniel. Corey Daniel is
Corey Daniel. Yep.
So we got a lot of content coming out. Check out our Facebook page, social media. Check out our Facebook page for our new Zazzle account. That's going to give you your Rugby Rant merch. I believe if you already have a Zazzle account, you can get 15% off of that. We got T-shirts, we got pint glasses, we got mugs, we got blankets, we got fucking keychains, we got everything. Check us out, support us. Matt, thank you so much again for being on the show and giving us a unique perspective.
Thank you.
San Diego, man. No, really,
Yeah.
it's like I said before. No, I wasn't joking. Like I said before, I love that we can do this, and you could be outside in San Diego, and Rob could be in Illinois, and I could be here in New York, and we have just random shit happening where some fucking teenagers are going up and down their dirt bikes and shit. But really, really, really appreciate you coming on. I'm sure you'll be watching the USA match on Friday, and I'm sure you'll be watching in 2 weeks when your Seattle Seawolves take on the arch enemy, the San Diego Legion. So, guys, I'm the big guy, Scott Farrar. That's Rob the Hammer Hammerschmidt. For our buddy Matt Courtright. Peace out. We'll see you at the next.